So I don't think that the arguments, the hyperboles, the high octane, low fiber, high fructose, ungenerous diatribing that's going on now should ever be referred to as a story. And let's just drop the word narrative, because it's too easily confused or conflated with the word story. And you're back to what? Argument, allegation, what I've called in the last book, the obsidian certainties of the 20th century.
Steve, in the book now, I'm in the chapter actually of in matrimony, which again is a really compelling inquiry in the midst of the plague. But you have a line which maybe is appropriate here, which is, you say, good stories don't tell you about something, they tell you something. Yeah, and the reason I bring that up now is because, as I look out at this moment, there's a number of stories that are, you could say, jostling for supremacy around what's going on, and in some ways, there's the crisis of trying to pick the one, right, based on one's own orientation or belief in authority or not, or whatever it is. And so I just wonder if we could start there to say, what are the main stories that are being offered up, and therefore, and what are they telling us actually that maybe they don't know that they're telling us?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm not persuaded that stories is the best way to account for what's going on. In other words, I wouldn't blame stories for the debris along the highway of the 21st century at all. Stories don't argue. They have no skin in the game, right? They are their own prevalence. So this is the beautiful thing about, this is why you can remember a story in a way you can't remember an hypothesis or an argument or a line of inquiry. I mean, if you really commit yourself to it, you can remember it. If it happens to come from you, maybe you can remember it. But there's something about stories, and we all know this intuitively, that they virtually tell themselves if you lend any part of your scrutiny or give a shit or willingness to attend to things to them, right? And it doesn't matter that you can't find the beginning. You begin instead. That's what storytelling is. And the best storytelling goes like this. Do you want a gifted storyteller to tell you a story? Yes, I do. Then you begin to tell a story very badly. And the gifted storyteller will not be able to sit by the sidelines and endure the mauling of the story that you're perpetrating, right? And so usually with some grace, hopefully, the storyteller will gently intervene and suggest it actually goes something like this, and everybody looks at each other satisfied that the subterfuge actually worked and the master is finally at work, right? Okay. So I don't think that the arguments, the hyperboles, the high octane, low fiber, high fructose, ungenerous diatribing that's going on now should ever be referred to as a story. And let's just drop the word narrative, because it's too easily confused or conflated with the word story. And you're back to what? Argument, allegation, what I've called in the last book, the obsidian certainties of the 20th century, by which I mean, obsidian is a remarkable volcanic rock, right? And it came into being, this is a kind of metaphor I'm speaking now, that it came into being as a consequence of stone literally being melted and being turned liquid and highly volatile. And it cooled in a certain fashion that it didn't reconstitute itself as rock. It reconstituted itself as volcanic glass, which can take on an almost surgical cutting edge. But by virtue of its of the period of its genesis, is remarkably brittle. So that goes to say basically that the more extreme a position that you occupy in any given matter, the more likely it is that your certainty will shatter, or you try to inflict it upon the proper ambivalent nature of the way things are.
Yeah, well, beautifully said.
Okay, so the case I'm making is I'm making a plea on behalf of ambivalence.